Unmute. All right. The four-way test of the things we think, do, or say. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build
goodwill and better friendships?
One of those. And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And I do not like green eggs and ham.
And I hope you like a $20 fine.
Yeah, Gary, how'd the editing go of the video?
Well, I can premiere a couple of seconds of it if you'd like.
It turned out great. Good job, Gary.
Let me see if I can find it here, and I'll come back.
Yeah, we got a couple of minutes. While Gary's queuing that up, any other announcements or anything while we're waiting? We got a couple more minutes before 12:30 to start.
Yeah, I saw the video, and I want to compliment all the readers on a great job. I sent it on to our grandkids because I think they would have a great time with that.
Thanks.
Very nice.
All of our readers did a great job, and Gary did a great editing job and pulling it all together. So,
yeah, Gary didn't have much to work with, so thank you, Gary, for figuring it out.
It was challenging. So hang on a second. Let me make sure share sound. Yeah.
Okay. While Gary's doing that, I just want to whoa, guess not.
You can.
Okay. There, is it full screen now?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, boys and girls. We are from the Tustin-SantaAna Rotary Club, and today we are celebrating Dr. Seuss's birthday. And to do that, we're going to read a book to you today. The book is called Green Eggs and Ham, and it's about someone who's a picky eater.
Green Eggs and Ham by Dr. Seuss. I am Sam. I am Sam. Sam I am. That Sam I am, that Sam I am. I do not like that Sam I am. Do you like green eggs and ham?
I do not like them, Sam I am. I do not like green eggs and ham. Would you like them here or there? I would not like them here or there. I would not like them anywhere. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam I am.
Looks good, Gary.
Like them how?
Okay, that's enough for now. We will continue that on Dr. Seuss's birthday.
Yeah, looks good. Thank you very much for doing that. I appreciate it. All right, well, we're about to be at 12:30. Any other announcements before Bre gets started?
No announcements this week. I gave them all last week.
Just some community service. This Saturday, Roger and I will be representing our club and participating in a city's giveaway of food, delivering big boxes of food. And then next Friday, a week from tomorrow, several of us will be also delivering food to the seniors through TCF. So.
Awesome. All right, if nobody else has anything, Richard, do you want to go ahead and introduce our speaker?
Sure. So I'd like to introduce Bre from Second Harvest Food Bank of Orange County. With the help of supporters and volunteers, Second Harvest Food Bank works through a network of hundreds of partner agencies and programs to provide wholesome food and fresh produce to more than 500,000 hungry children, seniors, and families throughout Orange County every month. Bre, it's nice to have you. And if you could pronounce your last name for me, I avoided it so I wouldn't embarrass myself.
Growing up with that, I'm very used to it. It's Piantanida. I need to marry like a Martinez. I need to simplify it. But hi everybody. Yeah, my name is Bre. It's nice to be here. I am our volunteerism and engagement supervisor at Second Harvest Food Bank. So I do all things with the people. The people is where it's at. And obviously I got to do a lot more of that pre-COVID. So the way I'm thinking I'm just going to chat with you guys today, I don't have a formal PowerPoint because I miss human interaction. And I feel like we've had plenty of screens, a lot of working on the screens, a lot of documents. We're having a lot of PowerPoints on our end. So I kind of just wanted to keep it conversational with all you lovely people. So I hope you guys are okay with that. It's just going to be me kind of familiarity with the food bank already. Just show of hands who's familiar with Second Harvest Food Bank or has been part of the donating to Second Harvest or the canned food drives, any of that in the past. Okay, so quite a few of you. So I'm gonna kind of brief you guys on where we were, what the food bank looks like in normal times. Obviously, we've had to shift things a bit, so what it looks like now, and then I'm just gonna open the floor for conversation, and you guys can ask me any questions you have, and we can kind of just talk about it. Sound good? Feeling ready? Yeah, all the enthusiasm. Boop. Okay, that's my job too. Is I'm kind of the hype girl. Is kind of the woo girl. I get to typically stand on a stage in front of a couple hundred people, volunteers who come in, and I get to talk about the impact we have in our community. I seriously think I have the best job. My job is to love on people who come to the food bank to serve others. It's truly a privilege. So first of all, our mission at Second Harvest, our goal is to end hunger in Orange County. It's big, it's lofty, but it's achievable. One of my favorite parts of my job is typically, again, pre-COVID, I get to work with the kids that come in. So as little as age like 6, 7 and up. And so obviously I talk to the kids different than I talk to the grownups. And one thing I tell them is I would share that, again, pre-COVID, I would tell them about that there were about 290,000 people at risk of hunger in Orange County. So for you guys, do we all know what the Angel Stadium looks like? Can we all like picture the Angel Stadium? We have an idea? Okay. So 290,000 people fill up every seat in the stadium about 7.5 times. It's about 290,000 people. That's how many people were food insecure or at risk of hunger prior to COVID. Obviously, that number is different now. Now we're at about 520,000 people at risk of hunger due to COVID. So when I give the numbers to the kids, pre-COVID, I tell them 290,000, they picture the Angel Stadium, they all have their eyes closed, they're super into it. And I tell them at 7.5 times, I would see their faces drop. And always, I told the kids and I started telling the grownups too, but I would say, this is not to make anybody sad. It's not, it's so we can learn and we can help. So we can learn and we can do something about it. Something you'll hear me say time and again through talking with you guys is what a privilege it is to do what we do, but how absolutely incredible it's been to have so many people want to serve during this time. So we can easily focus on the 520,000 food insecure, and that's what we do. That's what our job is. But it's also astounding to see so many people show up. It's a wonderful problem to have that I can't get back to all my emails in a timely manner because there's so many volunteers eager to serve. I think that's really beautiful. So it's a little tangent, and I tend to go off on the feelsy tangents frequently, but that's kind of my jam. I think that's what makes this special. That's what makes the work we do special. So I mentioned pre-COVID, about 290,000 people at risk. So if you've been to the food bank, you know that that's what we are, as a food bank. So the people who are food insecure, that's the term we use. It's just people who aren't sure if they have a next meal coming or where the next meal is coming from. They don't come to the food bank. The way I explain it to the littles is there's one food bank and there are 32 in Orange County, 32 different counties in Orange County. Should know that. I just pulled that number out. I think it's 32. We have 312 partners. So that's where we send people. People who are food insecure are going to go to our partner sites. So we have all the food come to us and we distribute it to 312 partners. So for us, partners entail shelters and soup kitchens and pantries and transitional housing facilities and senior centers and schools, different places where we make sure people in our community can have access to nutritious, good food. Prior to COVID, volunteers made up about 42% of the manual labor that was done in Second Harvest. So we would have hundreds of people come in a week. The last year was in 2019, it was about 26,000 individuals came in to volunteer. It's amazing. And that's wild. And that's how we are able to feed just shy of 300,000 people. And that's monthly. It's about 300,000 monthly. And that would be done if you guys have been to the food bank, you're familiar, but we had a few different ways we would do that. We would have, we call it our farm to family. So it's a bunch of loose, fresh produce that would come in, and we can't send these big vats of apples just out into the community because they need to be bagged. They need to be ready for those who want to receive them to grab them and go. You can't have everyone just reaching and trying to grab loose apples. That just doesn't make sense. And it's not as successful for the partner sites to get a huge thing of apples. Like, what are we going to do with this? So we have our volunteers help us bag them all. We can put them in different crates and we can make sure they go across the county to different partner sites in need. So we would have our farm to family, excuse me. We would have our grocery rescue program, which was a favorite. It was any of the major local grocery store chains in Orange County. I mean, we all know how it works. There's an expiration date. There's a sell by date, there's an expiration date. You have to sell it by the sell by date. That doesn't mean the food is expired. But if they don't sell it by then, grocery stores, we're tossing it. They cannot sell it, but we have 290,000 people at risk of hunger, so that's not going to fly. So we have an awesome team who works with these grocery stores, these big grocery stores, and our trucks go and pick up all of this waste that is not waste. We bring it back to our facility and our volunteers go through it all. So sometimes we would get bags of bagels. I know Lori mentioned bagels earlier. She's mentioning larger quantities, but there'd be bags of bagels or birthday cakes, apple juice. I mean, it's kind of, we get what we get and we try to make the most of it, and we make sure those go out to our community. And lastly, we would get canned food drive, like non-perishable, shelf-stable food. That was really fun because it allowed for people in the community, different groups, to feel engaged with each other, gather food, do the, like I was mentioning, trick or treat so kids can eat. Let's see, what's his name? Lane earlier was mentioning canned food drive that was done. That was a really neat way to do it. And then our volunteers would go through and sort the cans. Every single can that came in had to be sorted by a volunteer. We had to make sure things weren't expired. We had to make sure things weren't damaged. And the food that's going out, we want to be nutritious. Obviously, we're trying to serve our community. So maybe we would have a sweet, something going out here and there, but primarily our goal was for it to be healthy, nutritious food. Then COVID hits, which we're all very familiar with now, unfortunately. It's still around. So that changed everything for us. We had to shift our entire operation model. We can't bring in canned food because we didn't know what the contact of things would look like. We couldn't bring things in loosely from grocery rescue because there's so many different hands bringing that in. And farm to family, we couldn't bring in because we didn't have volunteers. So what it came down to with all of it is we didn't have the people resources. So we're an organization, I feel like we're pretty big and mighty, but there are 77 full-time employees. It's not a lot of us. Our CEO has said from the beginning, and I mentioned it earlier, he's like, we cannot afford to fail. That sounds scary. Every time I say it, I get chills because it stresses me out a little, but we can't. We have people depending on us. And it's, again, a privilege to have, but it's something we don't take lightly. So when COVID hit, we decided as an organization that we were going to split into 3 groups as staff. We would have 2 groups alternate what weeks were coming in to the food bank. So there was no crossover of staff members. So heaven forbid one team goes down, we still have the skeleton crew that can go in and keep things moving. And we had a permanently home team, a team that could work from home that will be permanently working from home. And bless them, they've been doing that for whole June April. They've been doing that a long time. I would have lost my mind by now. So we're doing a skeleton crew with staff. But if you think about it, we're having maybe 25 people in our distribution center at a time that are staff who are still needing to source food, who are still needing to receive trucks that are coming in. We're still needing to do accounting. I mean, we still have full-time jobs in the midst of this, and we see the numbers rising of unemployment and of food insecurity. So I mentioned earlier, it went from about 290,000 to about 520,000. The first couple of months, it was closer to 700,000 people at risk. And I think it was the initial fear everyone's going to the pantries. They weren't sure what it looks like. And as we've settled into it a little more, about 520,000 people who are food insecure in Orange County is looking like the consistent number across the board. And that was scary for us. How are we going to feed this many people? How are we going to do it when we don't have over 40% of the manual labor we typically have? We can't have volunteers come in because we can't jeopardize our team getting sick or the volunteers getting sick or those we serve getting sick, because some of those we serve, a good portion are elderly or immunocompromised or children, or maybe don't have access to healthcare. We just want to make sure we're keeping everybody safe while doing our jobs. So we shifted our distribution model. We can't have canned foods coming in and the loose produce, things that required people to work through, we can't have. So like I mentioned earlier, our food sourcing team, who's now down to 2 people, Dylan and Charles, their job is to bring in bulk produce, bulk products. So it's truckloads of food. Prior to COVID, we were, of the food we gave out, 80% was donated to us. So Canned Food Drive, the grocery rescue, even some great like companies would just send trucks of food to us, which was always so generous. So about 80% was donated and 20% was purchased. Now about 80% is purchased and 20% is donated. Not necessarily because people are getting stingy, that's not it. It's just what we can take. We're not taking the truckload of Cheetos anymore. We used to say, yeah, send us the Twinkies. Now we're like, okay, there's more going on. We want nutrition to be a component too. If we're feeding the community and we're able to meet that need, it's allowing us to be a little more selective about what we are bringing in to make sure we are feeding the best food we can to these families who are in need. Fortunately, we've been able to meet that need consistently throughout COVID. It's been different. My little heart is breaking because I do the people stuff and the volunteer stuff, and obviously those opportunities have been so limited. But the way the community has rallied around those who are in need during this time has been out of this world. The generous donations we're getting, any financial gifts we're getting, that's going to food. We're purchasing way more than ever before, so we're needing more funding than ever before. I don't know if anybody saw when we were doing the Honda Center. Was anybody able to go to that, or did anyone see that on the news? No, yeah, we're seeing a few nods. That was crazy. So it was about 4,500 households were served on average every Saturday. We'd go to the Honda Center and we set up a drive-through food distribution. Now that is not our model. We'd never done anything like that. We got our heads together and it was, okay, Bre, you volunteer is your world, get 500 of them. Kelly, sourcing is your world, figure out how to get truckloads and truckloads of food that's already packed because we don't have volunteers to pack them. You're killer at operations, Kristen, get tents in and figure out the logistics of thousands of cars. I mean, we were freaking out a little bit. And I don't know if this is the part I should be sharing. I should be talking about all the good stuff we did, but the first week we did the Honda Center, we had 2 lanes. It was a nightmare. I got there at 5:30 in the morning and Catella was already, cars were already wrapped and blocking Catella. We were like, okay, we're gonna have to shift this. So by the end, we ended up having 4 lanes going. Next week, we had 8 lanes and it was efficient and we figured it out. But that's kind of what it's been for us the whole time. It's been pivoting. Our CEO uses the word pivot a lot, Harold Herman. He says pivot more than I ever did when I was in basketball. I mean, we are pivoting, but that's what we have to do. We're having to shift and be flexible. And it's been rewarding in a weird way to have been able to navigate those waters. But the Honda Center was an interesting experience because we would feed 4,500 households. We'd have that many cars come through. We would give them a box of shelf-stable food. We'd give them a box of fresh produce. Thanksgiving, we're giving them a pie and turkey and gravy and mashed potatoes. I mean, again, we've been able to afford it because the community's rallied. We got some donations. That was incredible. We did that with OC Food Bank as well. And there's some pride when I get to stand up there next to that big duck, the Anaheim duck. I get to stand up there and talk to a couple hundred people. and get everybody fired up about the work we're going to do. And I talk about how many people we're serving. Everyone's like cheering, but then we also have to take a minute and go, okay, but we also have to think about why we're doing this. It's this weird combination of like sweet and heavy. Look how many people are here at 6 a.m. There's like hundreds of people to serve our community at 6 a.m. And then the reason we're doing that is because there are cars wrapped around the block because people are food insecure. So it's been a lot of that for our hearts. And I know everybody's dealt with it in their own way, whether it be personally or work. A lot of kind of tug of war, feeling really good about the impact or the kindness, about seeing so many people serve, and then feeling like, oh, because the reality and the gravity of the situation is also still very real. So I can literally talk for days. Can you tell I get paid to just talk? I do. So I'll just, that's where we are. The nice kind of candid backstory of where we are. That's what it looked like prior to COVID. We had volunteers. We've revamped our distribution center. It's a really cool energy. And then we have COVID. And so that same distribution center that was full of hundreds of people every Saturday, we've now loaded it full of food. So we have our warehouse is like kind of broken into 3 chunks. The other 2 always had food. There's a huge freezer we built. That's new this year. But there was always food in that area. And then we'd have all of our volunteers in this front area sorting, having all the good vibes. I'm playing with the kids. Like, it was always just cool energy. We can't have them and we need more food. So it is, I was there yesterday helping kind of tidy some things, and it's packed with food. Very, very cool. Because again, that means people are rallying around the food bank and helping us make these purchases and feed our community. But also weird because I miss standing on the stage and like making friends and hanging out with all the volunteers and the kids who want to talk about loving people. So it's been a journey for sure. There have been some volunteer opportunities here and there, but as of now, it's kind of limited in what we're able to do. But we're able to meet this need. I don't know how we've been sustaining it. I think a lot of it's in part to our CEO. I don't know how he keeps it all together, but he's doing it. So anyway, I appreciate people wanting to talk and hear about the food bank, and we're still interested in the work we're doing. We were kind of afraid that once the peak of COVID, or what everyone thought the peak was, kind of died down, people would kind of forget almost that food insecurity is still very real, and employment is still very real. And I like being able to just chat with people and see faces other than my colleagues. They're lovely, but I've seen the same people for a while now, only interacted with them. So this is a treat. Thank you guys for having me. Do you guys have any questions?
Yes. Do you receive any county, state, or federal grant money?
Yes. Yes, we do. That has also been a game changer for us. So there was I'm going to be careful how I speak to this because this is not my area. So I can't speak to it as well as others. I know we got the initial, there was a food bank funding. We got that initial wave, which allowed us to purchase a bunch of food. That was running out and we got a little worried. We had some meetings about it internally, figuring out, okay, if this runs out and we don't get more funding, we don't know how we're going to meet this need in the community. Fortunately, there was another set of funding that came through, which is allowing us to buy bulk boxes of produce, which has been really helpful, sending to the partner sites and allowing families to pick up the bulk produce. But yeah, that's been a big one. We're even creating kind of an advocacy, it's an advocacy committee within our staff to figure out how we can reach out to volunteers and have them reach out to their representatives if we're needing certain bills passed, if there are certain things that can help support food banks or food insecurity during this time, including like school. There's school meals for all is a legislative piece that's in the works right now, where it's talking about funding all students, providing food to all students throughout the entire year. So again, I'm digressing, but basically, yes, there has been funding and there's a committee focused on that within our organization.
Oh, I have several questions.
Hi, Helen. Yeah.
One, what is the basic nutritional diet that you give to them? Is my first question. Or does that vary from day to day, depending upon what you have?
It varies on what we're able to get in, because the demand is high. We need to kind of get in what we can get in. Our focus this last year, we've been shifting to high protein. And so our sourcing team has been just on it, and they're focusing on getting truckloads of eggs, which is the first time we've done that. It's big, but it's an amazing source of protein, and truckloads of chicken. Those have been crucial. The reason I'm having to think about it a little is because we just had our all staff meeting via Zoom, and they came out with there's a new like nutritional guideline we're trying to stick to as closely as possible. And that was more for our sourcing team, just giving us a heads up on that. And I don't recall exactly what it is, but the nutritional value, the way they're trying to do that, it's like that plate image that we used to see like in grade school. Like, here's a plate and this much is veggies and this much is protein and dairy. That's not helpful. I'm just telling you there's a nutritional thing. So I clearly, once again, not my area, but I can find that out and email you if you'd like.
The other question is the fact that you've rejected canned food and things like that. Why could you not spray those cans in terms of sanitation? It seems like that would be a cleaner product that you're passing on to people. You do have a lot of volunteers, a lot of sources of food.
Yeah.
Couldn't that be resolved that way?
That's something we'd considered in the very beginning, and it came down to people resources. We didn't have enough staff in-house to allocate even just one person to be spraying all the cans that were coming in, especially with the amount of generosity we have in our community. What a great problem to have, right? But the amount of people right off the get-go saying, I'm going to bring in cans, we were like, oh my gosh, if we put Arturo on this is about a dozen people doing this 24 hours a day. I mean, we wouldn't be able to get through it all. Where before we had thousands and thousands being able to do it. So we just weren't going to have the capacity in terms of our staff to get through it.
So what you're saying is that you're resourcing food like from major food distribution centers.
Yes, primarily. And then when those options are offered up to us, we're saying, yes, we don't want to turn away food. There's need in the community. So we're providing a list of our partner sites, those I mentioned, the pantries, soup kitchens, that will receive them and do have the manpower to sort through it. Or maybe their model looks different than ours, and people just come and grab some of the cans off the shelf and they don't even need to sort it. But because it would be coming from us, we have to check, as like I mentioned, the expiration, if there's any damage on it, then we have to do the germ thing and the sanitizing too. So we just weren't going to have the ability to. So we're trying to send people to our partner sites to drop those off now if they're interested. It's a really good question now.
Hey, Bre, do you guys have a plan in place for like as people get vaccinated and have like their little vaccination card to be able to show and prove that they've been vaccinated? Do you guys have a plan to like allow people to come back in and volunteer again once they kind of have like checked the box on their proof that they are vaccinated or anything like that? Or is it kind of like, hey, we're just on hold for the foreseeable future. This is our new model and we'll, figure it out in 6 months from now?
That's a good question. It's been loosely discussed what are we going to do when things kind of start normaling out, whatever that looks like, whether that's vaccines or normaling out. And we've just decided for now, for the foreseeable future, volunteerism is going to be on hold. That being said, there's such value in volunteerism. I mean, obviously I'm a little biased, but we agree as an organization, there's such value in it. Not only, food out, but in terms of like what that does for the community, what it does for those who are receiving the food, knowing that there's so many hands and there's so much love behind it, what it does for the volunteers, having high school students come in and like they're required to get so many hours. So you see them coming in like too cool for it, and then they fall in love with it and they end up being moved by the work they get to do. And even some kids who are just stoked on it right off the bat, we're thrilled to be part of it and decide that that's what they want to do for a living. I feel like there's such value to it. We're never going to fully get rid of volunteerism, but I think seeing how we could run on a skeleton crew like we've been doing the last year it's making sense and we're able to push out more food than we were before. So when we bring back volunteerism, it's not an if. I would lose my mind if it were an if. It's a when we bring back volunteerism, though, we would shift how that looks. For now, it's on pause for the foreseeable future, at least the in-house volunteering.
I have a couple questions.
Hey,
So,
Gary.
so first of all, how big is your refrigerator? Do you guys have like massive warehouse that's refrigerated? Is that what you do?
Yeah, I don't even have the number. No, I'm not even going to try to say it. I used to give this number when I was doing tours, but that was like a year ago now, and I don't even remember the exact stat. That's how long it's been since I've been given tours. 250? No, I'm not going to say it. It's big. It's a big old cooler.
Okay.
Technical.
And I'm trying to balance out which ones I want to ask first here. So how do you determine who gets what when people are coming to Second Harvest and they're looking for food? How do you determine what's allocated per family or per person, or is it a basically what I'm asking is, do you have a feeling or a determination as to whether or not there's anybody that's taking advantage of the availability of food through Second Harvest, or is there a process in place for you to know that it's going in the right place?
Okay, that's an awesome question. Kind of a few ways to answer this. When it comes to, well, all of the food that goes to our community currently and pre-COVID is through our partner sites. They know the need of their immediate community. So they know if they have several full families coming in, if it's primarily college students coming in, if it's seniors, if they're a senior center, obviously the need for the senior center is going to be different than the need for the kids cafe sites. So the partners request what they're going to need for that period, that window. And our team, who are specialties in the partners and programs, they have those relationships and can determine, all right, this week I can allocate, I have this many boxes of produce to allocate. Well, I know that the demand here has been higher. So our team allocates accordingly. And then once it gets to the site level, then the partner sites, the partner network then determines, they have their own structure.
So you're not delivering the food directly to families, it's going through your partner sites, and they have a closer relationship with the community that they're able to make that determination.
So some are like soup kitchens. So we're giving them different food than we're giving senior pantries, right? And so some are like, people can go pick up canned goods from a pantry. It's just structured differently. Now, that being said, when it was us specifically giving the food to the community, we had, I'll mention the Honda Center again. The way we did that is there is no way for us to tell, right? We don't know who's taking advantage and who isn't. One thing I would say at the very beginning when I was doing my little orientation is I would say, like, who are we to judge? We don't know. You could see a really fancy card coming in and go, do they really need food? But we don't know if that was their last purchase before COVID hit. It's not our place to judge. We are here to smile and serve. You'll see a beat up car come through and you see him come through a few times and you're like, you're coming through a few times, buddy. So we had to kind of work it out as we went along. Right off the bat, we aren't questioning anybody. Anybody who would drive through gets food. Everybody would get the same amount of food. It would be the box of produce, the box of shelf stable, the dairy, or whatever it was that week that we were able to bring. It was like up to 75 pounds one week. I mean, they're getting some food. And as the day goes on, we'd go, all right, our inventory here at the Honda centers where we're doing it, the inventory is still pretty high. And we're seeing the cars trickle a little bit. Let's start doubling up produce. If they want 2 things of produce, they can have 2 things of produce. So that was kind of we'd feel it out, but every single car got at least 1 load. Now I would tell the volunteers, listen, if you see them coming through a second time, give them food. If they're waiting an hour and something in line to get food, give them more food. Let them know you can't really come through again. We want to make sure we have food for everybody, but if you're coming back by, give them food. I don't know if that answers your question. It was kind of, I don't want to say it's a case-by-case basis. It's everybody gets food regardless. And then we would feel out the distribution and give out more if that's what we had available.
Okay, so if your primary source of food is from wholesalers, is that food or distribution of some sort, is that food primarily food that would have ended up in the landfill or ended up, expiring, or is it just regular wholesale food and you're sourcing it in a large capacity?
Both. With the grocery rescue program I mentioned earlier, where we would kind of get what was left, the leftovers, that would end up in trash, that would end up in landfill.
Mm-hmm.
Now we are sourcing specific types of food. So we're going out and getting different, clearly not me, but Kelly and our food sourcing team is going out and getting quotes from different chicken vendors. And that's what they do, is they're providing large quantities of boxed produce or whatever the case may be. So it's a little bit of both. Sometimes we were taking what was left so it didn't go to waste and we were utilizing it. There's still some of that, but it's primarily ordering specifically to meet the need.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else have any other questions?
I
I
answered
think that's it.
half of them.
Yeah, nailed
Pretty
it.
thorough.
Yeah, people don't typically ask questions. Like I said, I usually stand up there and everyone kind of cheers and people are asking questions. I'm like, I haven't thought about that one in a bit. But if you guys have any other questions, seriously, feel free to reach out. And I know the right levers to pull and I can get that information for you. I'd be happy to figure it out and learn for my own edification too. So my email address, can I just like holler it? Would anybody want that? Yeah.
Yeah, you can holler it out.
It's Bre, B-R-E. It's on my name. It's spelled like Bre, like set Bre. B-R-E at feed, F as in Frank, EEDOC.org. Bre at feedoc.org. Yeah, just information for you. Lori, I'm going to connect with Dylan about these bagels. What was that, James?
I said, that was awesome. Thank you very much. That was really fascinating. And it's really cool that you guys are still staying so active and, such a presence in the community when everybody's dealing with everything with COVID. So that's really, really cool.
Yeah, we're trying. Thank you guys for letting me see other faces for a little bit. This was usually it's just me and my diffuser hanging out every other week. So it's nice to